Welcome to the Lila Life Show. I am your host, Linda Andrews, and I'm here to guide you navigating the intersection of business success and personal well being. We're going to talk more about work transitions. I've done a few episodes on this. I think there's a lot of shifts going on in the world today, and this is going to be serving you. So, if you're considering a career change, facing a job loss, going after your entrepreneurial dreams, go for it. We're going to have some strategies today to dive in and do that. I want to thank Neurohacker Collective. If you've listened to the show, you hear me talk about them. My favorite product of theirs is Qualia. This is for optimal focus. They also have a product that I love monthly for detoxing. I took day 2 of the detox today called Senolytic. And then they have some other amazing products, Lila Life for exclusive discounts. These are scientifically backed supplements, friends of the shows. And so thank you, Neurohacker Collective, for the work that you do. I feel smarter every day because of that. All right, so let's get diving in. We're talking about career transitions. This is a time where you may be self-evoked to make a change. You may be feeling burnt out in what you have going on. You may have some dream seeds percolating inside of you. Maybe your relationship with work is changing. All of these things could be happening to you. I'm seeing a lot on the tech side where there's different layoffs. There's rumblings of some economic tumult, whether we're going to see that in a true recession. Some may think we are in a recession. My intention is to help you use these tools wherever we're at, okay? So what the heck's a work transition? We went over some of them, but usually it's something changing from what was to what is going to be in the relationship with work. You may be needing to prioritize certain things in your life more. Let's say that your health or your family is a bigger priority and your existing work life balance is so out of whack, you need to make some room. Maybe you're experiencing job loss. Maybe you're feeling like, whoa, I have more to give, wanting that career advancement. And I touched on, the entrepreneurial pursuit. Some of these changes are forced on us. Some of these changes we get to decide. And I think there's a way to mitigate some risk either way by spending some time contemplating your own career path. I love Patrick Bet-David's work where he says, think about your next 5 moves. You can take that out to your next 20 moves. People get really maniacal about, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do this. And again, some of this is out of our control. I believe that we are all divinely guided if we tune into that guidance. And as it relates to work, a way that you serve in the world, the way that you share your gifts, is a really a great time to assess all of this. Another element is the money, right? Are you feeling underpaid? I don't know if anyone's ever felt overpaid. I'm sure somewhere, but probably not the most likely position you find yourself in. But underpaid, under earning is a real challenge sometimes, or overworking and not having enough of the extra time. So you just may be at a point where you're like, something's got to give, something's got to change. Usually we hear this through the whispers inside of us before it turns into the big old scream. And sometimes, again, that scream could be something that's kind of put onto you through a layoff or a firing, right? You're not like showing up in your best integrity, you get fired. There's a lot of different ways that this can play out. Understanding where you're truly at. What's the situation that you're truly in? Being honest with yourself, being able to have this mirror moment. I find people sometimes have trouble with this. That's not a judgment, that is just a reality. And so the more honest you can be about where exactly you are and taking time to do that work, and that's going to greater inform where you want to head, where you want to go, and being brutally honest. You may be in your first or second job from school and have no idea, or be working a few part-time jobs and you just don't know. You just don't know. It's like, how am I making sense out of all of this? Give yourself the reality checks that you need. Sometimes there can be financial implications in this, including I'm overspending, I can't make all the bills work. Whatever your situation is, give yourself that most honest assessment, right? Once you've done that, you have an opportunity to start visioning, or you could do the visioning first, but you have to do that step of, where am I exactly at? The visioning, it's like stacking all your gifts, all your desires, getting that full storyline going And an important part of the visioning can also be the visioning of what if nothing changes? And that can provide some really grounded contrast to, okay, if I continue on this trajectory and don't make the changes, X, Y, or Z is going to happen. These are my life goals, my life dreams, my life vision. So if I don't change anything, this is happening. If I make these changes or just tap into what my actual gifts and visions are, this is possible. And then we're able to see, whoa, that gap is big. And where can we make those little 1 degree adjustments? You may have heard if you're 1 degree off course on a plane, you're going to land, I believe it's like 1,000 miles in the wrong direction over time as those hours of that flight progress. And so having that time to check in about where exactly you are, if you continue on that trajectory, 5, 10, 15, 20, be wild, 100 years. And then, okay, all these are the dreams, the visions, the gifts, what I want to do in my life. And then let's get real about where those shifts need to be. If you do as I did and burn your boats without a plan, you could be finding yourself in positions of challenge and unrest that were unnecessary. And so, for example, many things we're just going to piece together as they come along. It's like the reactive, the defense, but there is the opportunity to be in the offense and to step through, work through, plan through diligently. It's not that everything's going to be perfect and that you can control everything, but it's having that foresight and that anticipation for what's coming down the pike here. And so, including that could be some big bills, some expenses, having some piece of that for unexpected expenses. And then also just taking a look at what would the most epic of this transition look like? What could this transition be in its highest expression? And starting to plan for that. There's a function of time here that's important. And we could give an exact example. Okay, you're planning to leave your job in 3 months. Okay, we know you have 3 months. There's X, Y, or Z that needs to happen before and then after. And that's a big part of this too, is it's not the transition is ongoing, including the adjustment into what is new and what is emerging. You know, I like to say transitions take about 6 months. It could take longer, it could take shorter based on who you are, but just that 6 month window of giving yourself grace, understanding you're still adjusting, understanding that that clock of 6 months could be reset because maybe you're even layering in transitions. I know people that'll go through having the baby, leaving the job, getting married. It's all these things happening at one time. And each of those on its own would have been a big transition. And so 6 months could, in that example, extend to 18 months because it's stacking so many big changes. Right. So understanding in your own life what could prompt these work transitions, what are the challenges that are associated with them. Some of the like biggest challenge I see is managing your own stress around uncertainty and managing communications and the communications needed with the parties involved as you're navigating those transitions. So uncertainty is a big one. Tony Robbins says the 6 human needs are certainty, uncertainty, love, connection, significance, service, and one other that I'm always forgetting. So let's just take those first two though, certainty and uncertainty. Those are opposing factors there, opposing forces. So we have a desire and a need for certainty and uncertainty. They're both human needs, right? We like things to be steady, safe, secure, and we also sometimes like the thrills and what's around the corner, we don't know yet. And some people put different values on those differently. If you are attached to certainty in a world that is extremely uncertain, I think an extension of the certainty can even be expectations when, especially in transitions, there's a lot of uncertainty, just understanding that the emotions, that the intensity of this can all feel very heightened. A big part of this also can be fear of failure. The fear of failure can be evoked because literally you feel like you failed maybe from what you were leaving and then what you're going into, right? Let's say you got fired and you feel like a failure. You could feel like a failure because you're repeating some of the same habits, patterns that reiterate you feeling like a failure. You could also feel like a failure with the new venture that you're looking at. Maybe it's out of your comfort zone. Maybe you're feeling like you don't know if you're good enough or you can do it. And so a lot of those can also be brought up at that time. I think ways to mitigate this is really tapping in and doing a lot of state work, especially if you've been intentional in the transition of where you're headed, right? There is going to be novelty. There is going to be newness. There's going to be things that feel completely out of your control. There's going to be learnings. There's going to be mistakes, and giving yourself that window to figure it all out. And that itself is its own process. Another big one here, which I touched on lightly around financial concerns, man, like if you proactively know that you're changing a job, you're making a career change, you're launching a business, having your finances tight and orderly, not only just as your status quo of your operating system of what finances look and feel like for you day to day, but now starting to anticipate what's going to be needed with this change that's going on. Right? Maybe there's new expenses associated with the new job. Certainly with a business, there's going to be some level of startup expenses. There's going to be existing expenses. This could affect your family. And so having some of these conversations on the front end, being as clean and clear with your existing monies as possible, wherever you can simplify, eliminate doing that work, it's going to help you tremendously as you navigate that transition. And usually, because with transitions, there's more going on, you want to think about this as just one less thing to be a distraction or one less thing to be taking up headspace when you're already feeling a little bit strapped with the headspace. Okay. And then lastly, I think work-life balance is a misnomer. I don't know. I hear that, I say that, but the idea of your work life, your home life, your overall well-being, understanding how and what you need in each of those areas to be successful, taking a look at what's going to change. Maybe there's, say, limitations on time. And so you need to go for your daily walk, but your schedule is shifting. When is that walk going to happen? And that becoming a major priority. There could be commitments with your family, with your loved ones, responsibilities that you have to be accounted for, making sure the non-negotiables, whether that's on your personal well-being, your family commitments, your business, or the transitions that are work related, that these are all properly accounted for and with wiggle room, right? You're going to build a house or do construction. We want to recommend that 20 to 40% cushion for the unknown, the unexpected. We could even call it the inflation bucket. And that's the same with all of this. Is like giving yourself some space, some breathing room. If that's some extra saying no, so you have room to process and be in that transition, can really be rewarding. And it can reset some of these bad habits or relationships that are no longer serving you, or just overall, like there's aspects of your life that are changed, that are in flux. And that means there's a ripple effect from that where other things are going to shift, other things are going to change. So one huge part of this around the realistic expectations, expectation hangover, I think, is so real. I can have really high expectations, and in those expectations can become jarring because often things aren't meeting my expectation. Then it's jarring. Then I'm feeling like, whoa, oh my gosh, everything's messed up. I'm not telling you to lower your standards, but have some reality checks around the expectations. And so, you're not going to be necessarily running the company in 6 months of the new job, right? Your promotion, for example, like why are they promoting you in 6 months? What are you showing for yourself and your ability for that to even happen? Resetting those expectations, especially when you're in a new environment. For new business owners, I see this, I went through this. I worked for a brand and a company that was a very certain echelon, and then I expected to make all those same expenses and keep that same like level of operating for the new business entity, which again, standards are great, but do you have the financial backing to support those standards and those decisions? That can unlock some amazing creativity, because then you're able to say, well, I can't do this yet. When we have X cash flow, it may make sense to pull that lever. But instead of doing that right now, we can do this, and that's going to cost way less money and give a similar feeling. And then you find over time, oh, that constraint was really helpful. This worked better than overspending on that to begin with. I'm so glad we went in this direction. And so some of these early stage growing pains, especially on the business side, can give you the opportunity to be really creative and come up with something different, more effective, more efficient than you ever would have in the beginning of that. We're talking about some of the challenges here regarding the transitions and also just managing stress. I think a huge part of this is seeking support, as integrative advisory services that we offer here at Lila Life. I am obsessed with transitions. Transitions are so beautiful because you get to like recreate something, create something for the first time, define what this wants to look like be in deeper integrity to whatever that new vision is. It is such a supple alchemical time to be working with. And so finding your support, if that's family members, friends, mentors, advisors, coaches, whatever that feels like and works for you, and just remembering that as each little phase of your life unfolds, that the type of support, what the support specifically looks like and feels like for you, that could change and it will change. And what used to work for you at one point may not work for you now. One of my favorite ways to share this as an example that is not related to support, but you're going to get the point. When I was a college athlete, we would be training 20 to 30 hours a week. Of course, it wasn't over 20 because we can't break the NCAA guidelines. But let's say the NCAA isn't looking and we're training up to 30 hours a week. That was an aggressive workload. And I was training at those elite levels pretty much from, I would say, 14 to 21. Turned 22, done with college athletics. I'm not training 20 to 30 hours a week anymore. And not only am I not training 20 to 30 hours a week, I'd likely say I'll never be training 20 to 30 hours a week. And so what feels unreasonable is for me as a 36-year-old woman running my company, different clients, businesses that I'm working with, family life, etc., to say like I'm gonna like, man, that was really my high water mark there. I can't wait to get back to that and be training 25 hours a week, let's say. That's not happening. And so reassessing what you need for the different phase that you're at, these different chapters have served us in very specific ways, reasons, points in time. And we can sometimes be collecting all these different commitments and things we love and all these different things. And it just becomes too much. And so understanding what you actually need, is it even working for you? I think it's really fun to do this very regularly besides big transitions to check in. And this is all to go to say the level of support that you need can have different seasons of life when different bigger things are going on. Certainly in the midst transitions, it's a great time to make sure your support is in place and that it's actually working for you. If the way you deem support is stressing you out and causing more stress during the transition, maybe that's not support anymore. Maybe you want to have some boundaries around that. And so just checking in what that means to you. Absolutely self-care. I love the self-care toolkit. If you don't have that, it's included in the membership as a worksheet. But the self-care toolkit is basically saying if I have 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 3 hours a day, what would I do with that amount of time that could be supportive? Self-care, a reset, giving you what you need, helping the nervous system unwind, unplug a bit. And so understanding what that is, and similar to support, is this working for you, right? If I was like, oh, self-care is me training 30 hours a week, that's not working for me anymore. And so being realistic with yourself around what that is, including time constraints. Maybe you're not going to get a full day to do self-care spa day. Maybe that's not even self-care. There's escapism there. Being able to check in and see what's actually working for you and allowing you to have the room and the space to have that momentum where you want to have it. Last but not least, having that positive mindset, having that state intact, never suggesting like positive washing the situation, but there is something about being in state, being in that frequency that feels best that you can be high performing at. And so that itself is practice. There's no better time to practice this during transitions. And especially if you're going from one job to another or one job to the business that you're launching, let's say, there's a version of you that you're going to need to get to know that you don't yet know. That's a higher performing version of you that does things at a different level, and giving yourself the room to start developing those great new habits, practicing that state that you're going to be in for that can really, really help this. So, positive state, positive mindset, peak state, peak mindset, understanding like that's on you. That's part of that personal responsibility. We all have every emotion on the spectrum. It's important to process those, but you don't have to be sitting in them for years on end. You can process something and move through it. So, a big part of the change and transition, some people hate change, right? When they want that certainty, when we're talking about changes and transitions, like, oh my gosh, what? No, 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 no. But embracing the change, finding and reconnecting with your purpose in that, that's the bullseye here. You're going to grow. There's going to be things that you don't know how to do that feel new for you. There's going to be a lot of self-discovery in here. You may be getting to re-know and reclaim parts of yourself in this. There's so much beauty in it. Like, I'm so hyped on transitions. But just remembering that, right? You're gonna grow. It could be hard. There's a lot of newness. I'm getting to know a different part of myself. And as you're making these shifts to embrace the change, but also reconnect with what your values are, reconnect with what your purpose is, reconnect with what your gifts are, and looking for that alignment, whether again, you're shifting jobs, pulling back from hours worked, working more, starting a business, finding that alignment, and that is going to lead to that fulfillment where so many people feel despair, bullshit jobs, all the headlines that we hear over and over and over, that you can create this. And one of my favorite hacks, if you're still in a job that you think you're going to leave, that you want to leave, right? You weren't laid off, this didn't happen to you, but you do want to map out this plan, playing with your state, playing with all the circumstances are as existing, but how you show up and finding that mastery before you go to the next thing and continue to have the same cycles of your habits and patterns that can be frustrating and just feel like more of the same. Master that in your current circumstance. If I had one regret, which I don't, because I get to talk to you on a podcast right now and share these insights with you. I had an opportunity to have mapped out literally the most perfect, beautiful transition if I wanted to. And I picked a date on a calendar and was unwavering from that date. There's a lot of reasons why I'm glad I did it that way, but I know it could have been done so much differently, could have been done over 2 or 3 years. I could have created my own space and breadth in that transition. And that's part of these insights to you is like, if you are meticulously crafting out the transition on your own terms, give yourself the time, give yourself the space. It's not to create a perpetual loop of never doing it, but it just literally like discover those values, get in tune with that purpose and vision. You heard me talk about this so many times: mission, vision, values, purpose. Get to know those, do those work, do that on the front end while you have that paycheck, while you're getting paid. Infuse all that into all your existing commitments, work, non-work related. It's a really fun thing to play with. And then the level at which the new opportunities unfolding for you could feel drastically different because you were able to face and do that work and take that personal responsibilities on the front end. So I hope you found some value here. This topic, there's so many gifts and transitions. There's so many gifts and change. It's not necessarily easy, but I don't know how much of life is easy. This is part of the deal. You're building up your resilience in this experience. And a note on that resiliency piece where, you know, you have expectations, when things aren't meeting your expectations, that's an opportunity for you to grow your resilience. I think that's so beautiful. I love to listen to the All In podcast. The guys I find really funny, and it's techie, business, all the things. They were talking about this and how when we have low expectations, we're kind of going through the trenches, trudging through and building our resilience that way. Where sometimes we're having these high expectations and we're going to be forced to build resilience because the expectations aren't being met. So you can look at these transitions as a resilience building exercise, see where you can find fun with it, give yourself the gift of like the space that I mentioned, that's a huge one. And of course, have some fun. Lila means divine play in Sanskrit. And so, can you tap into that divinity within you, that playfulness within you, this whole life play that is playing out each and every day, and enjoy the ride? So, I wish you so many blessings. Lastly, we have a partnership and affiliate with Neurohack, or excuse me, I mentioned Neurohacker, but Apollo Neuro. And if you know me in real life, beyond the podcast, you know I have a tan line on my ankle from wearing my little Apollo Neuro wearable, which is like wearing a hug. I love it. I have calm, I have focus, these gentle vibrations that are enhancing my well being. I truly believe this has helped continue to build my resilience faster than all these different transitions in life that life has for me. Lila Life is also the promo code there, so feel free to access that. And thank you so much for tuning in to the Lila Life Show. I hope you got what you needed. Live your Lila life, and we'll see you next time on the Lila Life Show. Like, subscribe, share. Talk to you soon.